Today we're going to be reckoning with one of the trends that has been the most damaging to gaming. That's because games at the very top end are beginning to get near billion-dollar budgets, and the industry-wide impact of this is honestly disastrous. So, new data reported by GameFile puts Black Ops Cold War at $700 million, and of course, since its release in 2020, costs only seem to have increased. But that $700 million is just the start. That's actually because an unnamed developer told the UK's Competition and Markets Authority that some companies were facing combined costs, so including marketing and such, upward of $1 billion. So if you've ever wondered why your games have turned into shops, why a $70 game suddenly seems like it has to make so much more than $70, it's this kind of thing. If you've wondered about COD's endless torrent of questionable quality cosmetics, well, there's that. Or perhaps why we're seeing multiple studios have shut down over just the last few months. This stuff matters, and that's because of contrast. We will see today, yes, the excesses of the industry, but also a AAA, single-player, narrative game studio that is trying to do things different with Remedy. But of course, before that, well, we gotta deal with this report, because for Activision, that money is well spent. For their opponents, it perhaps isn't. So here's the deal. Stephen Totillo, who runs GameFile, was pouring through legal documents stemming from an ongoing court case, and he came across redacted data that has not been reported on before. And what he found, right, was a declaration from Patrick Kelly, who is the head of creative for Call of Duty, and he just shared these numbers. They're kind of wild. Black Ops 3 cost $450 million and sold 45 million copies. Modern Warfare cost $640 million and sold 41 million copies, and Black Ops Cold War cost $700 million and sold 30 million copies, which is less, but still, that's a lot of copies sold. And even though the troubled development of Cold War likely factors into its cost, we're still seeing cost rises of like 50 million a year. But make no mistake, this is a money printer. But it's doing something industry-wide that is impacting all of us. Here is a quote from the leadership of Insomniac Games. This was them speaking about Spider-Man 2, and it's a brutal quote. Is 3x the investment evident to anyone who plays the game? I set that to you. I've not actually got into Spider-Man 2 yet. I still haven't finished 1. But 2 cost $300 million. 1 cost $100 million. That's got quite the impact on profitability. He does make a good point. Spider-Man 2, per the leaks, had to hit over 7 million sales just to break even. But the thing is, this is actually not a problem for Activision. Modern Warfare 2 crossed $1 billion of sales in 10 days, which is 5 days faster than Black Ops 2's 15-day record, and that's, of course, all without the extremely aggressive microtransaction money and the Black Cell Battle Pass and all that stuff that goes on pretty shortly after the launch. So, for Call of Duty, ROI on this insane amount of money is guaranteed return on investment. That's why they've got 3,000 odd people on Call of Duty as of 2022. And skimping clearly does not work either, and we kind of have data to show that. Modern Warfare 3 was famously cobbled together a shit show that was not well received. Black Ops was not. It had 4 years of development, and that does appear to have shown, well, subjectively in the game, because it's great, but also in the sales. PlayStation and Steam sales were up 60% over Modern Warfare 3. That is well worth the price of an extra year of development. And if you're pretty damn sure that you're going to get, say, Red Dead Redemption 2 levels of sales, you'll feel pretty okay spending a Red Dead Redemption 2 level of money. But those games, COD especially, are unique. In a way, they're the worst of industry excess, but they're working. Here's the problem, though. Their results are what every exec wants, and that is what has done so much damage. The big players are fighting for two things: currency and time, and Call of Duty comes off pretty damn well in that fight. It's one of the games that occupies the 75% of gaming concurrency that is taken up by the 5 most played games. There's an insane amount of consolidation at the top end. Now here's the thing, if you're a big AAA, well, what do you need to do? What do you need to compete with to get that type of audience? Call of Duty. I mean, even take an old but very direct example. EA Games almost ran Battlefield into the ground the first time, and they quite literally destroyed Medal of Honor as a franchise, basically, all in a vain attempt to fight Call of Duty on its own terms with yearly releases. It didn't work, and wrote large, just about nobody is succeeding here. We have seen countless dead live service titles, more and more aggressive business models that just aggravate us, and even the old-fashioned way isn't always working. Take Square Enix, they like to make big, graphically wowing games, but Final Fantasy, outside of 14, has been a continual disappointment. The budget size of FF7 Rebirth and FF16 meant that profits failed to meet the company's expectations. And that again is where I call up the Insomniac quote. Is 3 times the investment evident to anyone who plays the game? I'd argue that in most cases, it ain't. That's what Sean Layden lamented when he was talking about the AA game space basically collapsing and the complete unsustainability of AAA in a world where the companies are gearing up to fight Call of Duty, but without the brand recognition, the consumer yearly purchase patterns, and the sheer budget. Back when EA pushed for yearly Call of Duty competition, they were also doing fun things like live servicifying their entire lineup, all trying to chase the same types of dynamics. We know, as an example, that Dragon Age 4 was initially a live service title. To me and you in first principles, that's a completely stupid idea because it's not what Dragon Age is, but to the midwit investors and executive types, well, they're looking at the business models that they are seeing convert and drive stocks up. Activision can afford to spend close to $1 billion to sell you a $70 game when they've got a yearly track record of selling upward of 40 million copies. Just about no one else can do that, but you can see it from the C-suite. Why would you have another one-and-done Batman Arkham game when you can play in the big leagues with an ongoing live service title? I mean, imagine you are on a board. What's a better sell? Oh, we're going to continue as normal with another one, but better than the last one. Or, we have a massive plan for outsized growth that capitalizes on the business model of the future that gamers want, as shown by spend and playtime. One of those things is going to look more investable than the other. But I didn't do this video just to be a doomer. There is good news. And it's news wrapped up in the story of how Remedy want to not die and basically be free. So here's the deal. Remedy are trying to work out their future, and as a part of that, they made a 5-year promise to their investors, and in that, they committed to releasing 2 AAA self-published games designed to be sustainable and profitable. Of course, you then think, how? How are you going to do this in a world where AAA narrative studios are shutting down and it's all doom and gloom? Do you have a magic solution or a massive pile of Alan Wake 2 money? Well, the answer is no to the Alan Wake 2 money. That game has still not turned a profit for them. Now, yeah, being an Epic exclusive in some ways doesn't help, but Alan Wake 2 only exists because Epic funded it. Sam Lake, who is the creative director and also the literal face of Max Payne, he said that Alan Wake 2 would have happened in 2010 if anyone had been willing to fund a single-player narrative game. So yeah, the deal was basically money now at the cost of money later, and when the game does break even, obviously Remedy will be getting a 50% cut of that revenue per their publishing agreement. Now, many of the default reactions here are totally going to be, yeah, well, you should have been in Steam, that's where the PC gamers are. But without Epic, Alan Wake 2, the single-player horror game, would not have existed. That's because games like that don't tend to get made as much anymore. And for the longest time, the reason why was obvious. People were looking at other business models, other types of games. I mean, even going back to his day, there was another publisher who was funding single-player narrative horror games. They're called Electronic Arts, and we all know how that turned out with Dead Space 3. All of this is why their new plan matters. Here's their actual plan with real budgets. For context, Alan Wake 2 cost 53.5 million euro to develop. There was additional, of course, in marketing and such. So here's the deal. Their next 2 self-published games, which are FBC Firebreak, which is a spin-off of Control, and Control 2, are budgeted for 30 million euros with a $40 asking price and 50 million euros with a full AAA asking price, with sales estimates being between 3 and 4 million. And that's basically what they're wanting to do to break even and then in the long run be profitable, because those games will be assets that'll just keep on selling for years and years and years. Because unlike the countless dead live service games that no one will ever touch, you can buy Alan Wake and play it, and the same goes for Max Payne, and you can buy the Alan Wake remaster. Because it turns out if you make something that's got real value, it'll have real value and you can sell it for a long time. And it's not that they're making these games with tiny teams. Remedy are 365 spread across 2 studios plus 250 external devs. Their main base is in Finland, which is higher than the average European cost of living. They have another base in Stockholm, I believe, which is, I also believe, a very expensive city. And graphically, it's not like they're making little, indie PSX games in the cheap. No, these games are stunning. But do you know what they're not? They're not hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's why the utter AAA graveyard is actually a good thing. Remedy are able to do this because of design. Control and Alan Wake 2 are visually stunning games, but in one of them, to be reductive, you're traipsing around a forest, and in the other one, you're traipsing around a building. It's not really billion-dollar set pieces everywhere, but not only do they not need to be that, it wouldn't serve them being that. Alan Wake blows me away with its art direction, its craft. The rest is how that's achieved. When Control makes a pleasing noise and blasts me with some really cool-looking triangles, that's artistry, not a dump truck of money. Remedy make cost-controlled AAA games that leverage their artistic mastery to achieve player experiences that other firms spend far more money and years striving for, and of course, perhaps even self-sabotage with live service ambitions. It will never make Remedy billions of dollars. They have not promised their investors billions of dollars, and shockingly enough, their investors do seem to be happy. Now, this is not me saying that Remedy is a charity. No, it's not a charity. It is a profit-seeking business. But it also appears to be a mission-driven business. Its mission is to make the types of games that they want to make. But far more importantly, it also understands something. Greed would rob them of the success they do have. A giant live service play that leaves them leveraged to their tits with insane risk would probably fail, and almost certainly would kill the company. Then they'd have nothing. Rather shockingly, all of this is in spite of Remedy being a publicly traded company and one having a stock chart that looks like this. Our lesson here is simple, it's awesome, and now that we have more data of the top end of the industry, man, I love it. The whole line go up mantra has failed developers, failed creativity, failed gamers. Sam Lake said it, right? You weren't going to get an Alan Wake 2 funded with the way that things were. And we've all seen it in games. There's near endless accounts everywhere, including, say, the ones within Blizzard, where Blizzard couldn't even commit to making an RTS. You know, real-time strategy. The thing that Blizzard literally foundationed its business off. And what's best is this is tangibly useful for you and me. You see, Sony can afford to do what it does to, well, just about spend what it spends because of its dominant console position and its first-party business model. So if you just yanked things from Sony, you'd be learning lessons, like, wrong. They don't apply to you. Call of Duty and its, big live service model, all of that spend, that's okay because their return on investment is rather proven. But it's that Call of Duty and live service type revenue that is motivating investors. It's the business model that they want. A combination of that and the first party factor is why Sony thought, sick, we'll do a Concord, it's going to be great. When, obviously, it was doomed to fail. And here's where it's super tangible for me and you. This is not one-to-one, but it makes the point, right? How many people lose their money chasing the next big trend or the next big viral stock? You know, they see, Tesla went up, Palantir went up, Nvidia went up, and then they think they can time the market. They end up losing, and they lose a hell of a lot of money. That is our analog for a lot of the mistakes at the top end of this industry, versus what Remedy seem to be doing, which is boring. It's the equivalent of putting a little bit of money away each month into an index fund. It ain't sexy, it's not going to lead you to explosive growth, but it's sustainable. It works. And perhaps, if that is sustainable and works, you can get on with the thing that matters, which is the craft and making something. Because in a world of delusion where companies just thought, we can do a Call of Duty, we can do a Destiny, whatever it is, that's just survivorship bias, leading fools to lose a lot of money. And yeah, personal finance and big business are different, but I think the point is clear. Remedy should be celebrated for this sort of model. Let's hope that more are to follow. And I have a hell of a story to follow this video with. It is about Ubisoft. Don't worry, you don't need to be an Assassin's Creed fan, because really, it's a corporate family drama. It's a hell of a story. Check it out next.